Okay, so get ready, because today we're going deep on something you don't hear every day, the flat Earth. And before anyone jumps in saying, wait, they're actually talking about this? No, we're not here to debate if the Earth is actually flat.
Right, that's not the point of this deep dive.
Exactly. What we're interested in is WHY. Some people believe it, especially now, with all our fancy technology and whatnot.
And it's a really good question. I mean, we've got satellites orbiting the Earth, astronauts taking pictures.
Right, you'd think by now the whole flat Earth thing would be like ancient history.
Yeah.
But guess what? It goes way further back than you might think.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking ancient civilizations here. Like the Egyptians, the Mesopotamians, they pictured a flat Earth too.
Really? I mean, I guess it makes sense, right? If you're just looking out at the horizon, it does seem to go on forever.
Exactly. Without the tools or knowledge to observe otherwise, a flat Earth would seem like the most logical conclusion.
It's like those early maps you see, just a flat disk with like an ocean swirling around it or something.
Exactly. It wasn't until around the 6th century BCE that things started to shift. That's when you have folks like Pythagoras and Aristotle stepping in, making some pretty keen observations.
Oh yeah, those guys. They weren't messing around. They were all about logic and observation and all that. So what were they seeing that made them go, maybe this whole flat thing isn't quite right?
Well, for one thing, eclipses. It's tricky to explain how those work on a flat Earth, but with a sphere, things start to make a lot more sense.
Right, because it's the shadow, right?
Exactly, the shadow of the Earth falling on the moon. Then you've got ships disappearing hull first over the horizon. That was another big clue.
Ah, that makes sense. Because if the Earth were flat, you'd just see the whole ship get smaller and smaller, not disappear bit by bit.
Exactly. These observations were much easier to reconcile with a spherical Earth model.
So it's like our understanding of the world literally expanded alongside our ability to observe more of it.
That's a great way to put it. And you know what's fascinating? By the Middle Ages in Europe, the spherical Earth model was pretty much the accepted view.
Okay, so for a while there, everyone's on team spherical Earth. Case closed, right?
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But that's the thing about beliefs. Sometimes they have a way of, well, resurfacing.
Oh, I knew there had to be a plot twist.
Yeah.
Because fast forward to today, and the flat Earth idea is, well, it's definitely still around.
It is, and it's more than just a fringe idea. There are entire online communities dedicated to it. But to understand that, we need to look at how it reemerged.
Yeah, let's rewind a bit. Who brings flat Earth back into the conversation after, centuries of being pretty much debunked?
Well, our story takes us to the 19th century with a gentleman named Samuel Rowbotham.
Okay, Samuel Rowbotham, setting the stage for a flat Earth comeback. I gotta hear this.
This guy was serious. In 1865, he publishes a book called Zetetic Astronomy, Earth, Not a Globe.
Wait, hold up. 1865? I mean, by then we had telescopes and, actual science happening. What kind of arguments was he making?
He had a whole system worked out based on his interpretations of things like the horizon always appearing flat no matter how high you go, and the way the sun seemed to move across the sky. Of course, these observations were, how do I put this?
Flawed.
Yeah, let's go flawed. But here's the thing, he got people talking. Rowbotham's work gained traction with certain groups, and it laid the groundwork for what would become a much bigger movement.
Okay, so one guy and a book start to chip away at centuries of scientific consensus.
Yeah.
What happens next?
Well, fast forward a bit, and I mean a bit, to 1956, and bam! The Flat Earth Society is born. Their main goal, to advocate for a flat Earth. Yeah. They held conferences, published newsletters, the whole 9 yards.
Okay, I have to admit that takes dedication.
Yeah.
But on a more serious note, how do they even begin to explain away all the evidence? If I fill up my bathtub, the water curves a little bit at the edges. It doesn't just stop.
And that's just a tiny amount of water. Imagine trying to explain away entire oceans.
Right. And don't even get me started on those pictures from space.
I know, right? It's one thing to have a theory, but quite another to make it fit with, reality. And that's what we're going to get into next, because flat earthers have come up with arguments to explain these things.
Oh, I bet they have. How do they explain something as basic as, well, a curved horizon if the Earth is supposed to be flat?
That's a great question, and one we hear a lot. It all comes down to perspective and how our brains can sometimes play tricks on us. So you're saying to yourself, if the Earth is round, why doesn't the horizon look curved?
Right, am I supposed to be seeing a giant curve out my window or something?
It's logical, right. But what's amazing is how easily our perception can be tricked. Here's the thing. The Earth is massive.
It's too big. We get it.
No, I mean like huge E compared to us, like unfathomably gigantic.
Okay, I get it. I get it.
So even though the horizon eye is curving, it's over such a vast distance that our eyes standing on the ground, it just doesn't register. It just looks flat because we're so tiny compared to the Earth's curvature.
It's like that thing where if you're super close to a giant circle, it looks pretty much like a straight line, right?
Perfect analogy. Our brains are incredible, but they have limits. We just haven't evolved to visually grasp the curvature of something that massive from our vantage point. It's too big.
Okay, that actually makes a surprising amount of sense. But what about the whole water finding its level thing?
Oh, that's a classic.
Yeah, because flat earthers say if the Earth were actually a spinning globe, the oceans would just like fling off into space, right?
It does seem pretty illogical when you think about it that way. Who can blame them for wondering about that?
It would be pretty messy, to say the least.
To say the least. But that's where gravity comes in. It's kind of the MVP of the universe, really. It's the glue that holds everything together.
Right, gravity. So it's not just water, like magically knowing how to behave and stay put on a spinning ball.
Well, not magically, no. Think of it this way. Imagine the Earth as a giant magnet, and everything on it, water included, is drawn to the center of that magnet.
Okay, so it's all about being pulled in.
Exactly. And that pull, that's gravity. And it's so strong that it shapes massive things like, entire oceans, pulling them into a curve around the Earth. That's why we don't have oceans spilling over the edges or anything.
Even though it feels like they should. I mean, if you really stop and picture it.
Our intuition says flat, but gravity says curve.
Wow, so gravity really does kind of trump everything.
Huh.
But okay, switching gears a bit here.
Yeah.
What about planes?
Planes.
Yeah. Like I've seen those maps where flights take these weird curved routes instead of just going in a straight line.
Ah, yes, the flight paths. That's a popular one.
So how do flat earthers explain that one away? I mean, isn't the shortest distance between 2 points a straight line?
You'd think so, right. But this one's less about a flat Earth and more about flat maps.
Wait, what do you mean?
Here's the thing. Trying to represent a round object on a planet on a flat map.
Right, maps are flat.
Exactly. It means you're always going to have some distortion. Imagine trying to flatten an orange peel. You'd have to, stretch it and squish it in places to make it work.
Okay, I'm picturing it. It's not pretty.
Not at all. And that's kind of what we're doing with maps. So that straight line on a map might actually be the longest distance on a sphere.
Oh, okay, my brain just did a backflip. So the shortest path on a round Earth might look curved when you project it on a flat map. It's all about perspective. Again.
Precisely. It's all about how we're representing the information. And you know what else usually comes up around now?
Let me guess. It wouldn't be a flat Earth conversation without a little.
Conspiracy.
Bingo. Because, well, if the Earth eye's flat, someone's got to be hiding it, right?
You know the drill.
Okay, so we've got this whole flat Earth idea. It's been around for centuries. Science is basically like, nope, not a thing. But people still believe it. It really makes you think, what makes someone stick with a belief even when there's so much evidence saying otherwise?
It's really fascinating when you think about it. Belief is a powerful thing. It's not always about, just the facts. Our emotions, our sense of identity, our need to feel like we belong, those all play a role too.
So you're saying there's more to it than just misunderstanding the science?
Absolutely. Think about it this way. If you're surrounded by people who share your views, even if those views go against mainstream thinking, it creates a powerful sense of community.
Right, like you found your people, the ones who get it, even if everyone else thinks you're,
a little off.
Yeah, a little off.
Exactly. And that feeling of belonging, of being in the know, can be very compelling. It's like you've uncovered some hidden truth that most of the world is blind to.
And social media just throws gasoline on that fire, doesn't it? It's like everyone's in their own little echo chamber these days, just scrolling through stuff that confirms what they already believe.
Oh, absolutely. Algorithms are designed to show us more of what we engage with. So if you're spending time looking at flat earth content online, well, guess what? You're going to see more and more of it, even if it's not accurate. It's like the internet is saying, oh, you like that? Here's some more of that.
And before you know it, you're going down the rabbit hole. So it's like our own brains can sometimes work against us, leading us further away from the truth instead of closer to it.
It's a bit ironic, isn't it? That the very tools we have to access information can also make us more susceptible to misinformation.
It's like a double-edged sword. Okay, so we've talked about the history, the arguments, the psychology.
Yeah.
What are our big takeaways here from our deep dive into the flat Earth?
I think the biggest one is that critical thinking is more important now than ever. We're constantly bombarded with information from all sides.
And let's be real, not all of it's good information.
That's putting it mildly. Learning how to evaluate sources, to look for biases, to really think for ourselves, those are essential skills. Like that old saying goes, don't believe everything you read on the internet.
Or see on social media or hear from, anyone, really.
Exactly. But beyond that, I hope our listeners come away with a sense of curiosity. It's okay to ask questions, even if they seem a little out there.
Yeah, like, don't be afraid to be the one who says,
Yeah.
wait a minute, why does the Earth look flat if it's supposed to be round?
Exactly. That's how we learn and grow. And who knows, you might even change your mind about something.
That's okay, too.
Absolutely. Being able to change your mind when presented with new information, that's a sign of a flexible and open mind.
Love it. Okay, any final thoughts for our listeners before we sign off on this flat Earth adventure?
Just this remember that behind every belief, even ones you might disagree with, there's a human story. There's a reason why someone believes what they believe, even if that reason isn't always clear.
It's easy to judge or dismiss, but everyone has their reasons. Maybe this deep dive has given us all a little something to think about in that regard.
I'd like to think so. After all, understanding why people believe what they believe can often be more enlightening than the beliefs themselves.
Well said. And on that note, we've reached the end of our flat Earth journey. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into, I think it's safe to say, a truly fascinating and often perplexing topic.
Until next time, keep those minds curious, and remember, sometimes the most interesting questions don't have easy answers.